Unexpectedly, I became colleagues with my ex-husband, which was the last thing I had expected. After all, just 3 months ago, we had ended our 3-year miserable marriage that had been torturing each other. On this day, as soon as the news that the new general manager was coming spread, the whole office area was abuzz with gossip. It's rare for us to have a young manager. He looks really handsome in the photo. Huh? Zoe from the neighboring desk leaned over and looked at the introduction photo of Kevin on my company irritant. Do you think this new general manager, who's not even 30 yet, is married or not? He was married, and then divorced. Ah? I closed the page and said in a calm voice. However, he has a girlfriend. They might get married soon, or maybe he's already remarried. Zoe was dumbfounded. How do you know that? I shook my head and smiled. Just a guess. From his appearance. Actually, it wasn't. Everything I said was true. Because Kevin's ex-wife is me. Kevin and I can probably be regarded as a typical example of a couple who ended up as bitter enemies. We were alumni of a normal university. He was 1 grade above me, so he was my senior. Some people will always be the focus of attention wherever they go, making others can't help but look at them. Kevin was just like that. Come to think of it, I was the one who had a crush on him first. But there were so many girls who liked Kevin. I didn't have much confidence at that time. I just regarded him as an idol in my heart and didn't dare to confess my feelings. Of course, I was also afraid of being rejected. And even more afraid that we couldn't even be friends after being rejected. Until that summer vacation, we went to teach in a mountainous area together. The accommodation conditions in the mountainous area were not very good. One night, my place sleep train. The team leader took me to an empty classroom and asked me to wait there until the roof was repaired before going back. When I went there, I found that there was already someone in the classroom. It was Kevin. He was probably also brought here by the teacher to take shelter from the rain for the time being. And for some reason, whether he was too tired or something else, he just lay on the small desk and fell asleep like that. I gently pulled out the chair beside him and looked at his sleeping face, feeling my heart pounding. The classroom lights were off, and it was raining heavily outside. I suddenly got bold, and an idea popped into my head. I slowly moved closer to his face. At the moment when our noses were almost touching, a sudden clap of thunder roared outside. I came to my senses, awakened by the thunder, and mocked myself for being so dazzled by beauty. Just as I was about to sit up straight, my head was firmly held down by a strong hand. Kevin slowly opened his eyes and looked at me, who was panicked. He said slowly, "Sharon, what were you trying to do?" I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to do anything at all. Caught red-handed, my face instantly turned red, and I struggled to make him let me go. But he didn't let go. He just looked at me with curved eyebrows and eyes. And suddenly, he kissed me. I was so shocked that I even forgot to struggle. It was a very gentle kiss. But I wanted to, he said. So, Kevin and I got together. He was a wonderful boyfriend. We were together in college for 3 years. Originally, we planned to stay in the city where our school was located and live together after graduation. However, he unexpectedly received an offer from a well-known company in his hometown. He didn't want to be a teacher in the first place, and this was a job offer he had dreamed of. After thinking about it again and again, he held my hand and asked me if I could go back to his hometown with him. Kevin's hometown was far away from mine. There was no direct high-speed rail, and it took more than 20 hours by train to get there. My parents strongly objected to my going back to his hometown with him. My father even got angry with me several times because of this. My mother earnestly advised me on the phone, "Girl, we don't want you to marry far away because there's no one from our family over there. What if you are bullied at that time? Who will stand up for you? You won't even have a place to go." But at that time, I loved Kevin so much that I couldn't listen to any advice. I told my mother that Kevin would never let me be bullied. But in the end, the one who bullied me the most was him. It was as if my mind was clouded by lard. Even though my father had said something like, "If you marry there, don't come back to this home again," I still resolutely followed Kev into his hometown after graduation. After the train arrived at the station, Kevin came to pick me up. It was a snowy night. I was wearing a thick down jacket and rushed into Kevin's arms. With red eyes, I told him that I was here. He also had red eyes and kissed me randomly while holding my face. Kevin, that night, I nestled in his arms. Mama and Dad are angry. Dad said he would cut off relations with me if I left. I only have you now. He hugged me tightly. He said, Sharon, let's get married. I will be good to you for the rest of my life. So Kevin and I got married. After marriage, I worked as an English teacher in a primary school, and Kevin worked in a company. At the beginning, it was really sweet and happy. Like all newly married couples, we cooked together, watched movies together, and did housework together. Dad was still angry and didn't even come to our wedding, although I was sad at that time. I was immersed in the sweetness of the new marriage and unconsciously overlooked a lot of things. I always thought that when we had a long holiday, I would take Kevin back home, have a good talk with Dad, and let Kevin make a good promise in front of Dad. Then Dad would surely get over his anger. However, Kevin was getting busier and busier. Not only did he often work overtime in the evenings on weekdays, but he also often worked overtime on weekends and holidays. I felt so sorry for him and told him not to push himself too hard. But he put his arm around me and said that he had to work hard. I want to tell Dad that your choice, Sharon, was not wrong. I will let you live a life that everyone envies. Kevin's career soon entered a period of rapid growth. In just 2 years, he became the department manager. In those 2 years, he drank countless times. Every time he got drunk and vomited, I was always there beside him, cleaning up for him with heartache. At the promotion banquet for his promotion to general manager, I met Jocelyn for the first time. She had big wavy hair, wore exquisite makeup, and walked gracefully to Kevin with a wine glass in her hand. She tilted her head and said congratulations to him. Perhaps it was a woman's unique sixth sense. I felt uncomfortable for the first time. When I got home that day, I asked Kevin who she was. Kevin was a bit drunk. He put his arm around me and kissed me, saying, Jocelyn? She's a colleague in my department. When I wanted to ask more questions, he had already fallen asleep. But Jocelyn was not an ordinary colleague. She quickly invaded the life of Kevin and me. Midnight messages, occasional phone calls, and the perfume smell on his shirts. These soon became the reasons for the quarrels between Kevin and me. I couldn't bear Jocelyn's overly obvious provocations, and Kevin was working overtime more and more often, until one night, I waited until 11 o'clock, but he still hadn't come home. I took a taxi to the entrance of his company, and just in time, I saw Jocelyn holding his hand on the steps and straightening his collar for him. Go back quickly. She smiled slightly, with a hint of coquetry in her tone. Otherwise, the endless calls will come again soon. Kevin smiled helplessly. I'll go back after she falls asleep. That night, I couldn't hold back. I rushed forward, pushed Kevin away, and slapped Jocelyn. What did Kevin say that night? Yes, he said. Sharon, you're acting like a shrew like this. After that night, the relationship between Kevin and me dropped to freezing point. We didn't talk to each other until half a month later, when Kevin pushed the divorce agreement in front of me. I had never seen him look so cold. He told me that he had really fallen in love with Jocelyn. He knew that having an affair was wrong, but when love came, he still couldn't control himself. I stared at him blankly. Love? I repeated his words numbly, feeling that the whole world had collapsed. You and her is love. Then what about you and me? He was silent for a long time and only said one sentence. Let's get divorced. I didn't agree to the divorce. I wasn't reconciled. Later, Jocelyn came to my school to talk to me. Women who are incompetent rely on marriage to tie men down. Facing me, she looked disdainful. Is it interesting for you to do this? She took out a surveillance video from her mobile phone. Sharon, tell me, what would your students think if they knew what you looked like that night? What would the school think if it knew? You'd better get divorced quickly. Kevin is my man. We've done everything. He only has me in his heart now. Why make yourself unhappy? What's your reason for not getting divorced? Do you think he's rich and has a good career? She looked at me with sarcasm. But one should know one's own limitations. You're just an ordinary primary school teacher. I'm the one who can match him. I think there are quite a lot of male teachers in your school. Wouldn't it be nice if you found a divorced male teacher and lived a plain life? Kevin's world. You can't keep up with it long ago. That day, she said a lot of things and even threatened me with the video of me hitting her that night. And I didn't say a word. Finally, she got impatient and asked me what I really wanted. I only said one sentence. If you're capable, make him divorce me successfully. After that, Kevin didn't come home anymore. I kept calling him again and again. When he blocked me, I went to block him at the entrance of his company. I was like crazy. There was only one thought in my mind. If they didn't let me live a good life, then no one should have a good life. I wrote some long texts, printed them out on A4 papers one by one, pasted them downstairs of their company, and handed them out to everyone who entered or left the company. She wanted to expose me? Then I would expose her first. She thought I was very afraid of losing. But actually, I had nothing left to lose long ago. From the moment I broke with my family for Kevin's sake, I only had him, but he didn't want me anymore. Jocelyn underestimated my madness to safeguard this marriage. She called me a crazy woman. The affair between her and Kevin quickly spread throughout the company, and to safeguard its image, the company fired her. This matter also reached the ears of Kevin's parents. The old couple were very traditional people, and they were very angry after learning about it. They called Kevin and me back home. In front of me, my father-in-law slapped Kevin, and my mother-in-law said that if Kevin dared to get divorced, she would hang herself. In the end, Kevin compromised. He broke up with Jocelyn and returned to the family. In this war among the three of us, I finally won. That night, Kevin and I talked all night long. We recalled the past together. I showed him our old photos page by page. In the end, I burst into tears. And so did Kevin, with red eyes. He apologized to me, took me back into his arms, and said, "Sharon, I'm sorry. Let's start over." I couldn't stop my tears from flowing and also reflected on all the impulsive things I had done in the past. That night, we fell asleep in each other's arms. He tried hard, and he cooperated. After that, we had a peaceful time for about 2 months. He no longer worked overtime often. We still cooked together, watched movies together, talked about the interesting things that happened every day, and went back to visit his parents together. We were discussing that when he took a vacation next month, we would go back to visit my parents together. It seemed that everything had gone back to the way it was before. Until that night, when he went to take a shower and his cell phone kept flashing on the table. I couldn't help but pick it up and answer it. The note for the caller's name was L. As soon as I picked it up, the other person hung up. I was a bit curious. But then I saw a series of messages sent by the other person. "Kevin, can you still come tomorrow? I miss you so much. I cried for a long time while hugging the pillow you slept on yesterday. I miss you so much. I really miss you. I don't want to sleep alone. I'm so sad. Why can't we be together when we clearly love each other? I've thought about it for a long time. It doesn't matter if you don't give me a proper status, but you mustn't abandon me. I really love you. I can't live without you. I'll obediently go to the job you found for me. I know you can't divorce her because of your parents. Let's take it slow and get through the difficulties together. Okay?" Every sentence was full of true feelings. Every word was filled with true love. When Kevin came out of the shower, I was still holding the cell phone in a daze. He snatched the phone away from me, took a quick glance at it, and said, "Sharon, are you still in contact with her?" I stood up and looked at him in disbelief. "Not only in contact, but you also found a job for her, and you even slept with her. Calm down." How could I possibly calm down? Anger overwhelmed my reason and I screamed hysterically, "How could you do this to me? Kevin, how could you? You said we would start over." Kevin let me shout and vent my anger, and his expression became colder and colder. "Sharon, I said I won't divorce you. Jocelyn can't accept this for the time being. I'll handle it slowly. I'm no less stressed than you these days," he said. "Stop pushing me, okay?" That night, I originally had something to tell him. I was pregnant. Jocelyn's phone call and messages turned this joy into nothing and also made the relationship between Kevin and me drop to the freezing point again. A week later, a child at school accidentally fell while going downstairs and his head was bleeding. I happened to pass by and without thinking, I picked up the child and rushed to the school hospital. In the afternoon, my lower abdomen began to ache faintly and blood started to flow out. I called Kevin, but he never answered. I was in so much pain that I almost fainted. My colleagues hurriedly sent me to the hospital. The baby couldn't be saved. The doctor said that my pregnancy was already unstable and the quality of the embryo was not good, so it was better to have a miscarriage like this. Lying on the cold hospital bed, I dialed Kevin's number again. The phone rang for a long time, but it wasn't answered. Since it was a natural miscarriage, The doctor prescribed some medicine for me and then let me go home. On the way, sitting in the taxi, the discomfort in my body made me feel stuffy and uncomfortable. To divert my attention, I opened my cell phone and started watching short videos. Recently, videos about Wang Baoqiu on digging wild vegetables seemed to be especially popular. People were making one funny short video after another, and the comment section was all saying how scary it was to be a love fool. Even the taxi driver, when she heard the sound of the video on my phone, interrupted and said, "Girl, what was Wang Baoqiu thinking? There are plenty of men in the world. You could say it's unlucky for her parents to follow her bad luck, but the mountain where she lived was also unlucky. She ate wild vegetables for 18 years. Oh my, she almost stripped the mountain bare. The wild vegetables were even more pitiful. Was it easy for them to grow up on their own?" After saying that, she burst out laughing. I laughed too. The driver was even happier and continued chatting with me through the rearview mirror. Being a love fool is really scary. Eh? Girl, what's wrong with you? I randomly wiped away the tears that couldn't stop flowing with my hand and forced a smile. Nothing. You're so humorous that I laughed too hard. And the tears just came out. There's paper on the back of the seat. Help yourself. I took a piece of paper, turned my head, and just happened to see myself reflected in the car window. An ordinary and messy ponytail, a haggard face, a resentful expression, red eyes, and a face full of tears. Was this still me? Was this still the Sharon who shone brightly on the stage when she won the first prize in the provincial dance competition? Was this still the Sharon who was always positive and always lived towards the sun? Was this still the Sharon who won the first prize in the teacher skills competition and was hailed as a rising star? It seemed that I suddenly understood the reason why I didn't want to get divorced. What I couldn't let go of and was obsessed with was no longer Kevin. It was everything I had sacrificed and given up for him. Just like Wang Baoqiu. Wasn't it also because she had given up too much that she couldn't bear it, couldn't let go, and was so persistent in wanting a result for 18 years? Fortunately, it was only 6 years for me. Fortunately, only 6 years. When I returned to the community, I saw the two people hugging each other under the tree from a distance. Jocelyn had red eyes, and Kevin was gently stroking her face with pity. The two of them were so absorbed in each other that they kissed passionately, as if no one else was around. Even when I walked closer, they didn't notice me. While kissing, Jocelyn said with a choked voice, "She'll be off work and back soon. I have to go, right?" Kevin was silent for a moment and didn't say anything. He just kissed her fiercely again. I watched silently. Although my body was uncomfortable, I was surprisingly calm inside and no longer had the impulse to slap them like that night. I even ridiculously felt that I was like the vicious female supporting character standing between the hero and heroine in a romance novel. They had such a hard time loving each other because of me. 6 years ago, after I failed to steal a kiss from Kevin, he would blink his bright eyes, press my head down, and say to me in a charming voice, "But I want to." 6 years later, Kevin was feeling sorry for another woman who was compromising in front of him, and couldn't even spare a glance from me who had just had a miscarriage. For such a long time, what on earth was the thing that I had been reluctant to let go of and had been desperately clinging to? It was the unexpected first kiss on that rainy night. The sweetness of our mutual secret love. The time when I gave up everything and rushed towards him in the heavy snowfall. And the time when he said to me, "Sharon, I'll be good to you for the rest of my life." But now, all these scenes had finally been smeared with bucket after bucket of ugly red paint. They could never be wiped clean. I raised my head. There were no tears. Suddenly, I felt that I had never breathed as freely as at this moment. I finally understood. The so-called letting go. The so-called falling out of love. It really was just a matter of an instant. That night, I brought up the divorce to Kevin. He was stunned for a moment, tugged at his tie, and looked impatient. "Stop making trouble, okay? You were the one who was desperate not to get divorced. What are you doing now?" He probably thought that I was just deliberately picking a fight. I looked up at him and said quietly, "Don't you want to get divorced?" He didn't say anything. I endured the discomfort in my body and continued, "Do you have the heart to let her be a mistress who can't see the light of day forever?" This sentence seemed to successfully anger him. Okay, let's get divorced. If you're willing." I couldn't be happier. "Just Sharon." He looked at me, his tone without a trace of warmth. Don't you regret it? How could I regret it? I had already regretted enough things. It was just very strange. I had always thought that Kevin was more eager to escape from this marriage than I was. However, a few days later, when I handed him the divorce agreement to sign, he hesitated for a long time before putting pen to paper. Are you really sure about this? He threw down the pen, looking a bit irritable. I nodded. The property between Kevin and me was actually quite simple. The house and the car were his pre-marital property. We had some savings, but not much. I only wanted half of the savings. He had no reason not to sign, but it took him a full 3 days to sign it. A month later, after dealing with all kinds of things, he and I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to handle the divorce formalities. Sharon, when it really came to this moment, instead of being as hostile as before, he just repeatedly confirmed with me, "Are you really sure about this? Once we get divorced, we won't be husband and wife anymore. Are you really sure about this?" he asked again. I suddenly found his appearance rather funny. He probably thought that I was playing hard to get, plotting some new trick under the guise of divorce to influence and disrupt his relationship with Jocelyn. So he was uneasy about my sudden agreement to divorce. But I really didn't love him anymore and really wanted to leave. I didn't want to stay for another moment. The day after handling the divorce formalities, I left. It snowed heavily that day. Kevin called and surprisingly said that he would see me off. No need. I only have one suitcase. The same one I brought when I came here 3 years ago. I can carry it by myself. But he still came. In the railway station, I was waiting for the ticket check, and he was standing silently by the side. His cell phone rang many times, but he didn't answer it. Finally, he just turned it off. I thought that as the one who had an affair, now that I was willing to divorce amicably, he and Jocelyn could be together without any obstacles. So he still felt a bit guilty towards me. Coming to see me off might just be to ease his guilt a little. When it was time for the ticket check, I pushed my suitcase forward. Suddenly, he grabbed me. I turned around. "Let me know when you get home," he said softly. I shook my head and pulled his hand away. "Kevin, we're already divorced. From now on, let's just pretend we never knew each other." After saying that, I walked away without looking back. Standing on the platform, in the snow flying all over the sky, it seemed that everything had been reset. 3 years ago, I came here alone with a suitcase full of love and courage. 3 years later, at the same station, I left here alone, throwing away all the pain and unwillingness. This time, I would never come back again. I arrived home at 7 o'clock in the morning. When I was actually standing in front of my parents' house, I hesitated. I didn't listen to my parents back then and acted willfully. Now that I've ended up in such a situation, I deserve it. With who I am now, how could I have the nerve to come back crying and seek my parents' protection? At this moment, the door suddenly opened. My mother was wearing thick home clothes. She was probably about to take out the trash. When she saw me, she froze on the spot. "Sharon? Sharon? Mom." My voice trembled. "Oh my child, why didn't you tell us in advance that you were coming back?" My mother quickly pulled me into the house while shouting inside, "Honey, come out quickly. Sharon is back. Why did you come back so suddenly? You're wearing so thin. Look at how cold your hands are. How long have you been standing at the door? Why didn't you knock?" My mother took the suitcase from my hand. "Where's Kevin? Why isn't he with you?" Just then my father also walked out of the bedroom. I couldn't hold back any more and tears streamed down my face. "Dad? Mom, I'm divorced." I thought that when my parents knew about the divorce, they would scold me severely. But to my surprise, neither of them blamed me. After listening to the whole story, my mother just had red eyes. While trembling with anger and scolding Kevin for being such a bad guy, she comforted me at the same time. "It's good that you're back, baby. It's good that you got divorced. That scumbag of a man doesn't deserve our Sharon. Listen to Mom. We'll be happy in the future. There are better things waiting for you." I threw myself into my mother's arms and burst into tears. All the grievances that I couldn't tell anyone about in the past 3 years seemed to converge into a huge wave at this moment and were all vented out. My father just sat aside without saying a word. Perhaps he had foreseen this outcome when he tried so hard to stop me back then. That night I slept in my small room again. Nothing had changed in the room. There were still all kinds of my old certificates and photos pasted on the wall. My mother said that she and my father cleaned it every day. Your father is tough on the outside but soft on the inside. Although he said angrily back then that he would cut off relations with you, he's been cleaning your trophies very diligently. My mother sat by the bed and said to me, "You're just like him, stubborn and obstinate. That's why he was afraid that you would suffer losses." I nodded and my eyes felt sour again. "Have a good sleep." My mother touched my forehead. I closed my eyes. My mother turned off the light and got up and went out. "Oh, you scared me." Her voice came from outside the door. "What are you standing here for? Is she asleep?" "Not yet, but almost. She's been crying all day. You should apply something to her eyes." My father's voice came through the door. "Later, when she's asleep, use an egg to roll over her eyes, or it'll hurt tomorrow." I turned over and tears rolled down again. That night I had the best sleep I'd had in a long time. The next day I cut off my long hair that reached my waist, dyed it dark brown, and permed it into a pure blossom hairstyle. The hairdresser exclaimed that it was a pity to get rid of such nice hair and asked me if I wanted to sell it. I shook my head and told him to just throw it away. I used to keep long hair because Kevin liked it. He always said that I looked the best with long straight black hair and asked me not to cut or dye it. But now I just wanted to please myself and start anew. My major is primary school English teacher. But after inquiring about several local schools, there were no vacancies for the time being and there weren't no recruitment plans either. Fortunately, a sister next door was going abroad in the company she was currently working for was in urgent need of an English clerk, so she recommended me for the position, so I joined this company first. This is a private enterprise that does foreign trade business. It has many branches across the country, and the one I'm in is also one of them. The company has a great atmosphere. The colleagues around me are also very friendly. The company regularly organizes employees' cultural and entertainment activities and has fixed point assistance for a nearby mountainous primary school. All of these are things that I'm interested in and good at. I had been quite happy in this company for the past 3 months. However, the old general manager was hospitalized due to a sudden illness. After being discharged from the hospital, he retired because of his health condition, and the company recruited a new general manager. I had never thought that I would meet Kevin again so soon. Moreover, he turned out to be the general manager of my new company. If there was a question at this time, which was, what's it like to meet your scumbag ex again, and have him become your boss? Perhaps I'm the most suitable person to answer it now. However, the plots of resigning handsomely or taking revenge swiftly only exist in novels. My parents are both retired now. I can't be willful and resign again, letting them support me. Besides being a teacher, I have no other work experience, and the uncertainty of finding another job is also high. At least for now, I need this job. Actually, regarding Kevin coming to work here, besides being a bit surprised, I didn't have any other feelings. After all, in my position, there was almost no chance to have contact with the general manager. In such a big company, I might not even run into him on a daily basis, so I still went to work calmly. Because my mother was worried that I would be immersed in the pain of my previous marriage, she had been actively arranging blind dates for me in the past few months. To make her feel at ease, I went to all of them. It's just that she cast the net too wide, and sometimes it was inevitable to meet some strange people. But from another perspective, it also brought some fun to life. One day at lunchtime, I was chatting with my colleague Gojo in the cafeteria. She asked me how the blind dates had been going recently. I sighed and smiled. I met one yesterday, when he knew that I used to be an English teacher. Do you know what he asked me? What? He said he wanted to take an on-the-job post-aggregate exam and asked if I could tutor him in English for free. Theft. Yojo couldn't hold back and sprayed out her drink. Just then, a group of people passed by our table, and one of them paused. What kind of people are these? Yo-Yo laughed and then sighed. However, even someone like you, Sharon, got divorced. I really don't understand what your ex-husband was thinking. What kind of woman do men nowadays want as their wives? A fairy? I smiled, took a sip of soup, and said, everyone has their own preferences. I understand. Yojo clicked her tongue twice. After having fine rice, they want to eat chaff. She suddenly fell silent. I looked at her in confusion only to find that she was already so nervous that she stood up. President Kevin. I followed her gaze and our eyes met. His expression was a bit surprised and also a bit complicated. He probably didn't expect to meet me here either. Yo-Yo tugged at me desperately. with so many people watching. I also stood up. "Hello, President Kevin." He was stunned for a moment. The people beside him also started greeting him. The surroundings suddenly became lively. There were quite a lot of people who wanted to get noticed by their boss. I pulled Yojo, and we walked away from the other side with our dinner plates. After that, I didn't meet Kevin again in the company. A few days later, it was the company's half-year meeting. Besides summarizing and commending, each department also had to prepare a program. The department had already arranged for me and another male colleague who had dance skills to perform a pas de deux. There was little time left, and I hadn't danced for a long time. The male colleague was better than me in dance skills, so we had decided early on to adapt a dance that I performed in a college competition into a pas de deux. My mother didn't know that Kevin was now the boss of my company. When she heard that I was going to perform a dance, she excitedly found out the competition costume from back then. It was a shiny blue dance dress. I tried it on and found that I could still wear it. "My girl is so beautiful. Just like a fairy coming down to earth," my mother sighed. On the day of the performance, standing on the stage, I was actually quite happy. After graduating from college and marrying Kevin, it was just work and daily life. I hardly danced anymore and hadn't stood in the spotlight for a long time. I danced heartily this time and cooperated well with my male colleague. It was really enjoyable. After getting off the stage, we walked while recalling the tacit understanding on the stage and chatted happily. Until someone shouted, "President Kevin." I turned my head and saw Evan standing at the entrance of the backstage, looking in my direction. For some reason, he was standing there alone and somehow he looked rather lonely. And the look in his eyes was too dim for me to see clearly. Nor was I interested. I turned around and walked out through another door. After the half-year meeting, I became a little famous within the company. Even several enthusiastic sisters from the neighboring departments came to ask me if I had a boyfriend. I told them honestly that I was divorced. The sisters were surprised and then clenched their fists, saying that they would definitely help me find a good man. I smiled and thanked them. At the same time, I also received good news. A new experimental primary school was going to open in the city's development zone, and the teacher recruitment notice had already been posted. A week later, the company arranged another consolation activity for the mountainous primary school. I had participated in one before when I first came here. My colleagues knew that I had teaching experience, so they recommended me to go again this time. However, I didn't expect that Kevin would also come. The children in the school still remembered me and kept calling, "Sharon, Sharon." I was very happy. I gave them snacks, taught them an English class, and played the game of eagle catches chicken with them. I was the mother hen, and a male colleague was the eagle. We were all sweating. When I was so tired that I wanted to drink water, Kevin, who had been talking to the principal all the time, suddenly walked over. "Are you tired? I'll take over for you for a while," he said to the male colleague. The male colleague was flattered and nodded numbly. Our eyes met, and I turned my head and asked the little girl behind me, "Do you want to be the mother hen?" The little girl shouted excitedly that she wanted to. "Sharon, go and drink some water. Leave these kids to us. Protect them well." After saying that, I smiled and waved to the children and went to the classroom. There was no one in the classroom. I sat down, feeling a faint pain in my lower abdomen, calculating the days. It seemed that it was indeed about these days. After that miscarriage, I hardly took a break and went through all kinds of divorce procedures with Kevin. I didn't have the so-called postpartum confinement for miscarriage, so I more or less got some problems like backache and abdominal pain. Recently, I was a bit tired from dancing practice. I stayed up late the night before to prepare the interview materials for the experimental primary school, and I had just jumped around a while ago, so the pain was a bit severe this time. I didn't bring any painkillers. Knowing that I definitely couldn't hold on until the afternoon in this situation, I sent a message to the male colleague who played the eagle just now, saying that I wasn't feeling well and asking if he could help drive me back early. The colleague was very nice. He came over quickly and drove me back to the city hospital. As a result, several illnesses came together. The doctor diagnosed that I also had acute enteritis and needed to have an infusion. I had no choice but to call my mother and ask her to bring my medical records of the past few months and come to the hospital. My parents came soon. They were busy paying various fees and getting medicine for me. I lay on the hospital bed with my eyes closed while having the infusion. The infusion room was quite noisy. I don't know how much time had passed. When I opened my eyes, I saw a person standing in front of my hospital bed. It was Kevin. You. Zoe said. You were in this hospital. I was a bit worried, so I came here. Zoe was the colleague who sent me here. There's no need for this, I said in a cold voice. President Kevin. Kevin was holding a medical record sheet in his hand, and his face was terribly pale, as if he was the patient. Just now, when you were asleep, the medical record was knocked onto the floor and scattered. I picked it up. He walked closer with red eyes, gripping the medical record sheet tightly in his hand, and his voice rumbling. Did we have a child? That medical record was written when I came to get some conditioning medicine last month, and my past medical history was registered on it. On October 26th, he said with difficulty. You mentioned divorce to me. Was it because the child was gone on that day? His hand was shaking. I reached out and took that medical record. If it were the old me, perhaps I would be full of grievances and resentment and keep crying to him about the loss of this child. But now, I had nothing to say to him anymore. No. My heart was as calm as a lake without a single ripple. It's because I don't love you anymore, Kevin. I looked straight into his eyes and repeated, it's because I don't love you anymore. Just at that moment, my parents came in. Seeing Kevin, both of them froze on the spot. Kevin was also stunned. He opened his mouth and surprisingly called out, Dad, Mom. My mother was stunned for a moment and then her emotions flared up at once. You bastard. What right do you have to call us Dad and Mom? My mother's tears flowed out instantly. We handed our daughter over to you in good health. How did you treat her? How dare you show up here? She rushed forward to hit Kevin. Get out of here. Get out immediately. Dear. My father immediately grabbed her. Dear. My mother turned around. Furious. Why are you stopping me? My father shook his head at her and said, there are so many patients here. Go into company share first. After saying that, he looked at Kevin and said in a deep voice, come out with me. Not long after my father and Kevin went out, I heard someone shouting outside the door. Oh no. Something's happened. Something's happened. I was so frightened that I quickly asked my mother to go out and have a look. My mother didn't come back for a while. Instead, the family member of the patient in the next bed came in. Oh my, you don't know. There was a fight at the door just now. My heart suddenly jumped into my throat. I just heard that person continue. That old man is almost 60 years old. But he beat a young man so hard that the young man couldn't get up from the ground. The hospital almost called the police. But the young man said it wasn't necessary. From his vivid description, I knew what my father had said. While beating Kevin, my father said, is my such a good daughter meant for you to ruin? I'll beat you up every time I see you in the future. You don't have the right to call us Dad and Mom. My daughter was brought up by me with love and care since she was a child. I've never been willing to let her suffer even the slightest bit of grievance. Is my such a good daughter meant for you to ruin? I'll beat you up every time I see you in the future. Just at that moment, my mother helped my father back. Why are you so impulsive? My mother was helping my father catch his breath. You're such an old man and you have high blood pressure. What if you overexert yourself and hurt yourself? He bullied my daughter. It's good that I didn't kill him. He walked over and sat beside my bed. Dad. I called out with red eyes. My father nodded and took my hand. After being quiet for a while, he said to me, girl, you should know that no matter when, your parents will always be your strong backing. If you don't want to do that job, just quit it. Your parents have retirement pensions and savings. Even if you never get married or work, we can support you, as long as your parents are here. You don't need to be afraid of anyone. Even if the King of Heaven comes, Dad will stand up for you. My tears finally burst out. I threw myself into my father's arms and burst into tears. My father usually didn't like to talk much and was quite stubborn. When I was rebellious and willful in the past, I often quarreled with him, but he was the man who loved me the most in the whole world. After leaving the hospital, I rested at home for 2 weeks. Kevin came twice, but of course, he couldn't even get in the door. A few days later, the company's labor union sent a lot of tonics. I knew that it was Kevin's intention. Perhaps he realized later and wanted to make up for the unborn child. The day before going to work, I suddenly received a strange text message. Sharon, don't you have any shame? You're still trying to pester your ex-husband after getting divorced. After that, there was a long string of vulgar insults. I was quite familiar with this number. My parents called me to drink black bone chicken soup in the living room. I deleted the text message and immediately put this number into the blacklist. The next day at work, I found out that Jocelyn had also come here. Apparently, President Kevin was actually married. Yo-Yo secretly gossiped with me in the pantry. Last week, Mrs. Kevin suddenly came to the company and sent fruits to each department. She lowered her voice. It felt like she was coming to assert her sovereignty. Yesterday, someone in the secretary's office heard the two of them arguing behind closed doors in the general manager's office. They said they heard the woman keep asking why you still cared about her and so on. I also heard that this Mrs. Kevin was originally a mistress who managed to get into the position. She continued while eating melon seeds. President Kevin was originally married. She and President Kevin worked in the same company. She became the mistress and got the position. The original wife even came to the company to make a scene. I heard it was a big fuss at that time, and the company fired her. However, she's really good at playing her cards. Despite the original wife's various attempts to keep the marriage, President Kevin still got divorced. I heard that he just got married to her not long ago. It seems that President Kevin left the original company because there were too many rumors after getting married to her. So he changed companies. Coincidentally, our old general manager was ill, and he was assigned to our branch company. She clicked her tongue twice. Sure enough, men all like bad women. I smiled and didn't say anything. After work, I didn't go home directly. The eldest sister in the neighboring department arranged a blind date for me, and the person came to look for me downstairs at the company. He was a teacher in the Chinese department of a university, named Leo. However, as soon as I got to the parking lot, someone suddenly grabbed my arm. I turned around and saw that it was Kevin. He was out of breath, looking at me with concern in his eyes. "Are you back at work? Are you all recovered?" I was stunned for a moment, before I could answer. I heard a shrill female voice behind me. Then, the hand that Kevin was holding mine with was pulled away by a strong force. "Isn't this Sharon?" Jocelyn smiled and took Kevin's arm. "Long time no see." Kevin's face was stiff, and his expression didn't look good. "I heard you were sick a while ago." There was a strong sense of sarcasm in her words. "What? The old tricks didn't work. So you started playing the weak card after getting divorced?" "Jocelyn," Kevin said in a deep voice. "What are you talking about? Sharon is now an employee of my company." "Employee?" Jocelyn burst out laughing. "What a coincidence. I was also an employee of your previous company. There are so many employees in your company now. Is she the only one who's weak and full of drama? Have you forgotten how she used all kinds of disgusting ways to prevent us from being together before? She's just trying to attract your attention again." "Jocelyn," I coldly interrupted her. "Please watch your words. I've already divorced Kevin, and it has nothing to do with you two. I don't want to see you, and please don't come to bother me." I took a step closer. "If you insist on bothering me, I don't mind letting everyone here know what you two have done before. Just like before. You know I can do it." Jocelyn was stunned for a moment, seeming to find it unbelievable. She raised her voice. "Are you kidding? I'm Kevin's legal wife now. What right do you have? When I was his legal wife before, didn't you shamelessly come after him?" I sneered. "Why? Now that the positions have changed. Have you forgotten what you said before?" I walked closer. "Wasn't it you who told me that only incompetent women rely on marriage to tie down men?" Jocelyn's face suddenly turned pale. "Excuse me, may I ask what you want from Sharon?" Suddenly, a nice male voice came from behind. I turned around and saw that it was my blind date, Leo. For some reason, Kevin's face suddenly changed. "Is it Leo?" I asked. He nodded. "Yes. Do you still have anything to deal with? Do you need help?" I shook my head and smiled. "No. Let's go." Jocelyn behind us seemed to want to say something more, but Kevin held her back. I didn't pay any more attention to those two people, nor did I look at their expressions. I just got into Leo's car directly. After that dramatic incident just now, I actually didn't have any expectations for this blind date anymore. Although Leo is a person with good conditions in all aspects and can be regarded as the best among the blind dates I've had recently, seeing what happened just now, I think any man would mind it. This kind of thing is just a matter of fate. Thinking of this, I sincerely apologized. "I'm sorry for making you watch a joke today." But to my surprise, He didn't take it to heart and smiled at me instead. Actually, when the matchmaker told me about your situation, I was really curious at that time, with your conditions. I wondered why you got divorced and even made some wild guesses. But after seeing what just happened, I don't find it strange anymore. Why would anyone stay in that kind of marriage until the spring festival? His words were so frank and humorous that they instantly dissipated my embarrassment. Actually, I may not be ready to open my heart and enter another relationship yet. I told the truth. Normal, he said, but you still have to have confidence in life. After all, there are still good men in the world. I smiled. The atmosphere became relaxed. I joked along with his words. So, are all men good? Yeah. He parked the car, turned his head, and his eyes were shining. It turned out that having dinner with a Chinese teacher was quite interesting. He could quote classics at any time and make some boring things interesting. In the following month, I also heard a lot of rumors about Kevin and Jocelyn in the company. The most common one I heard was that Jocelyn came to pick Kevin up from work every day. She's really keeping a close eye on him. But it's understandable. She managed to become the legitimate partner after being a mistress within the company. Of course, she has to defend her position now. One day, President Kevin just left work with his secretary, and the secretary was almost killed by her with just a look. Oh, I remember that girl has a boyfriend. It must be a misunderstanding. Exactly. I heard that the two of them quarreled again later. I listened silently and suddenly found it a bit funny. When I loved Kevin and refused to divorce no matter what, the two of them were united against me, loving each other so passionately and regarding me as a stumbling block on the road to their true love. Because of my obstruction, they became more and more determined and even didn't hesitate to violate moral ethics to be together. But when I finally ran out of love and perseverance and truly withdrew, the two people who loved each other so passionately actually walked the same old path that I had walked before. Jocelyn, who was so confident in love back then, has also become so unpleasant now. I don't know if this is the life they wanted at that time. Kevin sent me various tonics in the name of the labor union for several months. Eventually, this matter reached Jocelyn's ears. One night, I was working overtime to sort out materials. When I got off work, I happened to meet Kevin at the entrance of the company. He seemed to hesitate for a moment and then walked over. How have you been recently? I was silent for a moment and said, you can tell the labor union not to send tonics anymore. I sent them personally, he said. I was afraid you wouldn't accept them, so I said it was from the labor union. I sighed. Kevin, why do you have to do this? I just wanted to make up for it. If you really have a bit of guilt towards me and the child, please never disturb my life again. He froze on the spot. People are really strange. Obviously, he was the one who fell in love with someone else back then, and had always wanted to get divorced. But now, he keeps trying to make up for it to me, his ex-wife. The sound of high heels clicking came. There was no need to look to know who it was. Sharon. Jocelyn had an "I knew it" expression on her face and rushed forward. Don't you have any shame? What if you lost your child? It was such a long time ago. You deserve to lose your child. If you had agreed to the divorce earlier, you wouldn't have gotten pregnant at all. The divorce is already done. You're still using the child's matter to deliberately provoke Kevin and make him feel guilty. Are you playing hard to get? Do you think Kevin can't see through your bad intentions? Don't you think I can see through them? How could you be so vicious? As she said that, she raised her hand to hit me. I instinctively blocked it, but someone was faster than me. Stop it. Leo grabbed her hand and said coldly, slap. I slapped Jocelyn's face with my backhand. Jocelyn froze on the spot, and Leo was also stunned. You hit me? She covered her face and said blankly, you hit me? You. Why did you hit me? Nothing. I said calmly. I just felt like hitting you, so I did. It's not like I haven't hit you before. Jocelyn completely lost her grace and was about to pounce on me with teeth and claws. Kevin quickly pulled her back. She turned her head, hysterical. Why are you pulling me? Enough. Open your eyes and see clearly. Kevin. She hit me, she cried and shouted. How could you let her hit me? How could you let her bully me? Who is your wife after all? I quietly watched Kevin drag her away as she was making a big fuss and I just felt a sense of pity. She looked much more shrewish now than I did back then. Turning my head, I looked at Leo, wondering if my slap just now had scared him. Sorry. I always let you see such an embarrassing scene. But he shook his head and silently gave me a thumbs up. I think, he said with admiration on his face. It was really powerful. The incident that night still spread to some extent. Colleagues began to whisper when they saw me, and even Yo-Yo came to ask me if I knew President Kevin before. I thought about it and decided not to say anything. After all, it was all in the past. The days that followed were much calmer. When the admission notice for the experimental primary school came, I wrote a resignation application and handed it to the company. Kevin quickly called my office landline. For the first time, I went to his office. Kevin was holding my resignation application in his hand, lowering his head and saying softly, "If it's because of Jocelyn, don't worry. She won't come to trouble you again. You don't have to resign." I shook my head. "It has nothing to do with her. If it's because of me." He raised his head. "Sharon, I did things that hurt you before. I've actually thought a lot recently. I just want to make up for it." I sighed. "Kevin, when we got divorced, maybe I didn't make some things clear." He was stunned for a moment. "It doesn't matter. I'll tell you seriously again here. In the course of our relationship, I was always the one who gave up everything for us. You never gave up anything. It's normal that you didn't cherish it because it came too easily. And you don't even know or understand what exactly I gave up for you. Have you ever thought that when I married you and came to a strange city where I didn't know anyone, I came for you and the only person I could rely on was you? I took your promise of a lifetime seriously and thought it was forever. So when you broke your vow, I couldn't accept it and tried so crazily to save our relationship. But you tried every means to push me away just to be with Jocelyn. In this long tug of war among the three of us, I've already run out of all my love and perseverance for you. I still can't bless you two until now, and I don't need your guilt and apology. I just hope that I'll never see you two again and that you won't disturb my life anymore." After I finished speaking, Kevin lowered his eyes and was silent for a long time. Finally, he raised his head. With his eyes a bit red, he said, "I understand." After leaving the company, I joined the experimental primary school. I stood on the podium again and engaged in the education career that I liked. I lived a fulfilling life every day. Leo and I got along as friends first. As we chatted, we unexpectedly found out that his father and my father had been colleagues for a period of time before retirement. Yojo would contact me from time to time. According to her, Kevin worked in the company for another half a year after I left and then was transferred back to the head office. And the last time I saw Kevin and Jocelyn was in Hainan. During the winter vacation, I planned to take my parents to Hainan for a holiday. Coincidentally, Leo and his parents also went there every year, so we discussed going together and could play mahjong there. Maybe some enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. When I was wearing a big straw hat and buying small shell ornaments on the beach, I saw Kevin and Jocelyn again. The two of them should also be out for fun, but they didn't look very happy. "Why did you add her WeChat?" Kevin's tone was helpless. "Jocelyn, don't be so unreasonable, okay? I needed to pay her. Was it wrong to add her WeChat? You don't want to accompany me out to play at all, do you? Do you want to dump me?" Jocelyn's voice was already on the verge of crying. "Do you want to dump me just like you dumped Sharon back then?" After a while, Kevin finally spoke. "Sharon is not like you. Like me? What am I like?" Jocelyn's voice was almost hysterical. "I tell you, Kevin, there's no way you can find a mistress and divorce me." I didn't continue listening because Leo came to call me. "The four old people are addicted to drinking coconut juice." He smiled. "They're calling you over." Not far away, under the blue sky and white clouds, my mother was wearing big sunglasses and waving happily at me. "Sharon, your father opened a big coconut for you. Come and drink it." I smiled and waved vigorously at them too. Coming. The end.